It's after the hour of 7 a.m. right here on Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for joining us for this very specific segment, that is the newsreel, where every single day, Monday to Thursday, we do discuss some of the issues of national importance. And this morning, definitely, we'll be engaging you on still some of those issues. Well, before we get into that, just to remind you of our poll question this morning that is running on our social media and concerning, of course, the street children is, well, what do you think is the best way government can handle the issue of street children in Kampala? What do you think is the best way government can handle the issue of street children in Kampala? And still the same topic is going to be shaping our conversation this very morning. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am joined by Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono, where we're going to be delving right deep into it. And Robert, just to tell you, we've had this issue over and over, street children, especially in our Kampala streets. We've seen very many interventions coming through, especially by government and all other regulatory bodies that are supposed to be doing something still concerning this issue. Now, most recently, we've seen over 150 street children being deported back to Napak in that is the Karamoja district, to get rid of all these to get rid of all of them off the Kampala streets. And this was an operation that was conducted by KCCA, and still, with the same motive, they did say they're going to be arresting anybody who is seen giving money and gifts to, these street children. But taking you back to the deportation, this is not the first time this is happening. Now, my question is this a sustainable move? Are we going to continue getting them off the streets, taking them back to the home districts because eventually they return? This is not the first time, like I said. Is it a sustainable move? Is that the sustainable solution to this problem?
Well, it is a simple and clear answer. It is not. It is not, because picking children off the streets and taking them back to Napak district in Karamoja sub-region is not something you're going to do, because KCCA, Kampala City Council, before KCCA, all were doing this. The more you remove, the more that are going to come to the streets of Kampala, because you're just treating a symptom and not the cause of the disease. If you have malaria and all we do is you have temperature, high temperature, now we get a wet cloth, put it over you. But we know that that is not going to treat the malaria. You will get weaker, and you will die. And this is what is happening. You had few street children, now they're increasing. The monies, Ugandans must know that when KCCA goes to remove these children off the streets, it is money being spent.
Absolutely.
And this money at one time even has brought problems to KCCA. I just want to read for you an article as I was reading about street kids. And this was, that is just last year, 2021, 14th of December. Here, legislators have called for an audit into Kampala City Council authorities' expenditure of the 3 billion allocated to rehabilitate, remove, trace, and settlement of Karamoja children off the streets of Kampala. While meeting KCC officials led by the Executive Director Dorothy Chisaka, the Commission on Gender, Labour and Social Development said that out of the funds allocated in 2019, only 300 million has been accounted for. We allocate 3 billion to remove, to trace, rehabilitate, and settle. This was 14th December 2021. MPs were wondering, the money we gave in 2019, what impact has it done? So from just looking at it that we see these police officers, KCC personnel getting these children, we are losing a lot of money in this process, or spending a lot of money in this process. So removing economically or financially is not sustainable. That will never remove children off the streets of Kampala. They are not like vendors where you go to them arrested them, and now so far the streets are clean. And many knew if I go on the street, I'm going to get arrested.
I don't want to say clean, actually. If I've made time to actually move down there, they have their moments. But yes, there is quite some work. You can see that they were cleared off. But yes, I see why you're taking this conversation. But also, again, I just want to zero down to how prepared government is, especially for a move like this. We did talk about removing tracing and, you know, settling them and rehabilitation. I'm looking at the home, or, you know, where they're being taken to, Napak. How ready is this place for these children? Because I want to believe, Robert, if this is not the first time, okay, these children have been taken off the streets and taken back to their home areas, and they returned. Honestly, if things were actually doing so well back in their home areas, if they had been settled, if they had been, you know, taken back into school, if, you know, they were given what to do to make sure that they get some income, definitely they will not be making a comeback. But the fact that they are coming back, and by the way, in large numbers, that says a lot about where they were taken. They were not ready for this. So how sure are we that right now, being deported back to Napak, that place is really ready for all these children? And by the way, they're in big, big numbers.
First, our country has a problem that even where we should do things in the right manner, as long as there is money, we face challenges. And second, because now we've brought budget allocation, everything has got budget allocation, where need be or not need be. Talk about anything, do we have a budget for that? And because we get a budget for that, now reasoning, proper planning sometimes comes after spending. Because sente zize, but start there, you know there's that rush. It's like a person who has not been having money for some time, only to hear that maybe they've sold land and has a share, and the money, they'll just spend that money recklessly.
Yes.
So this is the challenge you have with our country. Now, when we talk about street children coming from Napak district mainly, they come from the sub-counties of, that is Lopei, Matanyi, and Lokopo. These children have a push factor why they get on the streets. Now, we are looking at if government has taken effort to prepare a home. The truth is, government or KCCA and concerned parties have done so much in seeing children off, taking them to rehabilitation centers that have still issues, but where their final destination, not so much has been done there. That's why they come back. One, we must investigate and find out that these areas were once food baskets of Karamoja. But with drought, how are you handling the drought? With the insecurity, how are you handling this insecurity? Then, what economic activity are you giving to these people? How are you boosting them financially to be fairly independent? Because when these are areas that for a long time have depended on aid. So when a child is taken back to this area, finds the same situation that took them to the streets, that child has had exposure. That child will not stay there. Then second, we also have ill-minded people that have made this a business.
Absolutely.
That they know they are going to get these children, bring them to Kampala streets. Somehow they are going to benefit from whatever they collect. If you have about 100 street kids, and maybe each one is supposed to give you 1,000 a day, maybe someone can have something at the end of the day, some amount of money to see him to another day. So if we do not tackle these factors, who are the people that are benefiting from these street children, not when they have reached the streets, but are involved in this business of getting them to the streets? Because we have two categories of people that benefit from these children. Those that find them on the streets, and here I must be very open, without fear of contradiction. I want to thank non-government organizations that have done tremendous work in rehabilitating street children. There are those that have gone to school because of these non-government organizations, yet they would have never gone to school. Most of those that are church-founded, I want to commend you. There are those that have had better treatment. They have had, some are even removed from the streets. Thank you so much. But at the end of the day, there are also those that are reaping big from these street children. They'll tell you, collect them in some place, give them a meal every day. If the budget is those street kids consume maybe 100,000, their daily budget could even be 500,000. And there's someone funding in the western part of this, in the western world funding this. We give them clothes. We do this. You see, their work is not getting them off or permanent, but things that keep them having a better life on these streets. So, unless we look at the origin, if it is insecurity, how have we fought this insecurity? Karamoja has a problem that when it is hot, it is really dry. When the rains come, then it is flooding, they're experiencing drought. You get it? So it makes it very hard for them to cultivate. Now coupled with some levels of insecurity, cattle rustling. So if you're not addressing these problems, then even if you remove these children, rehabilitate them, when they go back there, they'll still come back to the streets because they know I'm safer on the street. I'll sleep. I'll have something to eat on the streets. I'm protected on the streets, much as there are a number of hazards, but at least I know gunmen are not going to come and shoot us because they're taking cows or something like that. Yes. So back where they are going, I feel we should put more effort where they're originating from than even the effort we are putting. That 3 billion. Yes. If we said, how do you go to Napak and look for these sub-counties? How do we have, if they need, what economic activity can they do? Let's identify these families that, okay, how do we ensure that here we help them better? When you take them for rehabilitation, you empower them. I visited one of the places called dwelling homes. What are you giving them there? You find, okay, they look at the spiritual element, they teach them games, you find many music, they speak to them. They are lacking an area. Know that these children are going back. They're not going to stay here. So if you teach them carpentry, I don't know if carpentry is something that is selling in Karamoja and a park. You know, if you encourage them to, you find them in sports, busy there rehabilitating. I don't know how many people would pay in a park to go and watch a foot. So the rehabilitation package is still wanting. It is more of equipping them with skills that are applicable where they have been on the streets. That is in central region. But they are not applicable in their homes because there they are pastoralists. When they go back, they are pastoralists. Rehabilitation centers, what you're giving has no connection to the likelihood of the life they go there, how best they can fit in and ensure they can have sustainable livelihood. That is the biggest challenge.
Well, we've also seen that over time the number increases, okay? And I mean, when you look at the numbers right now, we have over 15,000 street kids. And I mean, this is according to statistics, aged between 7 to 14 right now on Kampala streets. But this is not the same number you would ideally say maybe about 10 years ago. Now, these areas from which these children come, there is something that, there is something that we pick out of this. Somebody would actually say maybe government is not giving them a lot of concentration like other areas. Because if we are to see most of these children, they're from the Karamoja sub-region. Now, in your own opinion, Robert, do you actually feel like maybe we are not giving that region enough attention as it, ought to have? Maybe the resources, maybe putting the schools to keep these children engaged, maybe to keep it secure enough for them to feel like, because some of the reasons, like you did mention, as to why these kids get to the streets, they want to look for money, insecurity over there. That place is filled with drought, especially in the dry season. The drought really takes over, and nobody wants to live in some of those conditions. So, could we actually say that this is part of this is part of an issue that has to be addressed by the government of Uganda?
First, we must understand that Uganda has got different regions, and all regions have problems and there are challenges. But some are so prone and vulnerable. When you look at Central, even if Kampala was in another part of the world and was of Uganda, maybe it was in Karamoja, factors in Central may not need street children. When you go to the West, fertile soils, pieces there, you wouldn't expect many children coming from the West. When you go to Karamoja, Karamoja has both problems that are out of nature and man-made problems. So that part is very vulnerable. And I want to say government has tried. I don't want to say they are not doing much, but they have tried. I remember when the First Lady was the Minister for Karamoja Affairs. You see there is so much that seemingly was moving into that direction. I don't know now, have not taken keen interest, but at least there's a time I was in Karamoja under NUSAF, and I would see a number of restocking, a number of efforts trying to ensure that they bring this area to some bit. But we must also understand it's fairly big. The challenges, like I told you, when it rains, it is disaster. When there is no rain, it is really hot.
Yes.
Then now coupled with those cultures of cattle rustling. So government just has to do more. To do more. If you're going to rehabilitate this area, and if you have Luweero and you have two areas, you would see that one is easier compared to the other. So something more has to be done in terms of economically empowering the people. Programs like NUSAF must continue going on very well, well monitored, because of some of these programs have found a lot of corruption in them. NUSAF 1 had issues. NUSAF 2, Parliament, those days it was hot, council, stop, end, had issues of corruption. So if we look at the peace element, empower these people economically, of course find ways of how we can adopt to this climate change or mitigate the impact.
Yes.
Then I believe the problem of street children will be solved. Better schools, how do we attract them in schools? Then also have the local leaders to fight a bit of some cultural practices that are also a challenge. That would be better than getting monies and thinking we are going to get them off the streets. Take them to rehabilitation centers. Then later, we take them back to Napak, where they are coming from. So here, we are just treating symptoms. But if we want to treat the disease, then we have to go back to Napak and address these issues. This ordinance that was passed by KCA in 2019,
yes,
that a person who gives food or money, of course the Attorney General has never said it to eat,
yes,
but it didn't make enough sense, because I told you any normal human being has an element of sympathy. I'm not going to have some money on me. I'm driving on streets. I see this child comes to me, uncle, uncle, and I'm like, I won't give this child money. When I'm a father,
yes,
I'm a parent, you know?
So you're looking at it from a compassionate point of view? A
compassionate. And why? How can you take me on an issue of kindness? Of kindness. Because believe you me, if these children are coming from these hard situations, coming on the streets, and the streets are also not favorable,
yes,
then expect violence and high crime rate. If a child used to come on the streets of Kampala and they are no longer getting that pain because they know someone is being stopped to give me, next you're going to see them with a stone, with a knife, saying, give me money or I smash your windscreen. So we cannot look at this element of compassionate. I think we are directing guns. This is misdirection. KCCA better organized rehabilitation centers to match that when you give these children programs, whatever you're doing suits in the environment where you're going to take them back and has an impact in that direction. Weavingi, sijui tailoringi,
so they need
for them,
to
they only need a stick and move. So when you say that girls you are teaching them, are you teaching them to stay in Kampala? To go and come back and do this in Kampala? To come out of these rehabilitation centers and go? So we need something tailor-made, that in these rehabilitation centers, they'll be able to transform this and suits in their area.
Well, our poll question is still running on Twitter, and definitely we want to hear from you what you actually think would be, the best ideas or the best ways that government can handle the issue of street children in Kampala. How best can government handle the issue of street children in Kampala? Hashtag UBCJMU, and feel free to send us an SMS, text, or even a WhatsApp message. Now, as we try to wrap this one up, Robert, you seemed really to be in total disagreement with this idea of, trying to arrest people who, you know, give money and free gifts because they're enabling these children. But again, the argument is that when you do that and you let the kids be on the streets, you keep, you know, encouraging them to come, they will involve themselves in all these criminal gangs, you know. And we've even had the public decry, you know, the bad conduct of these street children. We have seen quite a number of people complain, you know, these children do this and that, do this and that. I mean, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. It's something that we have seen, I mean, KCCA put up in place over and over and over and over. So what do you think about that?
First, I want to look at the criminal element very briefly. Fellow Ugandans, we are all what we are because of how we were brought up. A child who has grown up on the streets, now it is raining. You're covering yours, they're safe. The world has already been harsh to them. There are certain characters and mannerisms that are obvious that they will happen. Then second, if we look at the crimes that have been committed, I've spent a lot of my time in journalism covering crime and understanding crime. I want to tell you very few arrested are Karamajong children from Napak. Those people committing, or those children committing crimes on the streets, 5% would be these children we are talking about that are street kids today. This is coming from the central, the ones who pull your bags. Karamajong children, analyze this properly. I want to tell you, even if they are rounding off B13, Kamuje, so all these criminal gangs that we see, I have been at police stations, seen any child who is a Karamajong in B13. I have not seen any. Any in Ipanda, I've not seen any. So, crime, yes, they could have those petty because that is what life has shaped them to be. But let's not think that the crimes happening on these streets are by these street children. No. KCCA, acts of passionate, acts of people's feelings and to give, we cannot tame, we cannot stop. If we do that, and these children get to know that people who are giving us were stopped, what is going to happen? They are going to go violent because they must eat, they must pay where they are sleeping, they must survive. Let's look at this problem in a matrosectoral approach, most of focusing on the origin of these children than just massaging this. I know this could be more selling because it has huge budget allocations.
Yes.
You know, operation shall remove them, then monies are passed. Let's deal with this for once and for all. Let's direct all technical experts. Let's go to Napak. Let's address the problem. These children don't enjoy streets more than being with their parents. But because there, the situation is not favorable compared to what is on the streets.
Well, some feedback coming in. We have a gentleman called Faustin Bahati, and he actually says that he was once a street kid in Kampala, and he's really happy that we're talking and debating about this issue. He says some of the children who are on these streets, by the way, it's not intentional, okay, because of the surrounding circumstances. And he actually even says they're also there for God's purposes. So clearly hearing from a person who was once in this dire situation makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you so much, Faustin. Well, that's just about it for our Good Morning Uganda Newsreel segment, but we'll be getting into more of your feedback concerning how Mexican government handle the issue of street children in Kampala. Of course, as Good Morning Uganda goes on, we'll be getting into more of your feedback and opinions. For now, we'll be getting into the press to see what made it to the headlines, Daily Monitor, New Vision, and of course the Daily Nation. And then we'll be taking a look at the traffic updates this morning. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
In March 2018, Total Energies launched the Welders Training and Certification Program aimed at improving the employability of Ugandans from the Albertine region and East African crude oil pipeline areas.
GIZ E4D project is working with Total Energies, where we are targeting to train at the end of it 350 welders, and we're expected to train more.
I see myself working maybe in the oil and gas industry, being an international certified welder, because I'll have acquired the skills.
I'm a lady, but doing something which is generally perceived to be for men. It makes you actually feel special. It makes you feel wow.
I am ready to support the oil and gas sector by being a quality welder. I thank you, Total, and I thank the government of Uganda.
Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, in the press review this morning, taking a look at what is making headlines in the Daily Monitor. The big, of course, headline over there being Entebbe Airport closed. Now, of course, this was yesterday. Whereas the aviation regulator said it temporarily shut the facility when Rwandair plane skidded off on the touchdown in bad weather. Of course, sources say that the main runway poses a flight risk due to poor surfacing, markings, and design. All those are in page 6 of Daily Monitor, the details of this story. And still in more news, government to recruit 13,000 teachers. And again, 3 top women join MPL board over there in the Daily Monitor. And still in the news, stuck with 24 million doses, health 6, about 652 billion Uganda shillings for COVID-19 vaccines. And again, still in the relationships, do you make the right choices in relationships? Well, actually more updates have come in, especially concerning the airport. It has now been opened as opposed to what the Daily Monitor says. It was closed because of what happened, but now it is opened and flights were rescheduled. So you could also take that into accordance while you are reading the paper this morning. And still moving on to the second page of the Daily Monitor this morning. Coming in, still more information, of course, concerning the big story over there where MPL taps 3 top women on its board. And again, our mission is prosperity and security for Africa. This was, of course, said by the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, where he says government has set out 4 principles of patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. Well, that's it for the Daily Monitor this morning. Make sure you get yourself a copy to follow up on all these stories.
Well, we also look into the New Vision for today morning, and the story there looking at teachers, students abuse drugs. Now there is more to that story on page 5 of the New Vision for this morning. Now the new report exposes rot in schools. Now that is also talking about the drug abuse in schools. But also in the New Vision for this morning, they give you a big picture right there of Museveni tips Tanzanian officers, and they're giving you Brigadier General Juma Nkanga Sipe, who is right there with the president, and in a ceremony where he's also giving the president a gift. Now there is much more to that story on page 3 of the New Vision for this morning. But also for today's New Vision, you look at the new curriculum, S1 and English, literature, and also S2's chemistry right there in the New Vision for today. Now, family appeals for help over missing engineer. They also show you the picture of the engineer who is missing and details of that story on page 10. Now, the family of engineer Ronald Chibuka are also, appealing to the public to help be on the lookout. By elections, how NRM chose Omoro flag bearer. The full story right there is on page 8 of the New Vision for this morning. MP's block budget for Roa Hospital, and that is still a trending story about the hospital, but you'll get more details on page 4 of the New Vision for today morning. Kingdom Land, President directs on shillings 256 billion compensation. Well, they also give you a picture of Kabaka right there, and the full story on page 6 of the New Vision for this morning.
And moving into the Daily Monitor Sports, Africa Rugby Sevens, the final 12 have been named, and Victoria Pals look to keep ICC ranking in Capricorn Series. And moving over to the English Premier League, well, there is a blurred vision over there, and Manchester United interim manager Ralph Rangnick described his side's heavy 4-0 defeat by Liverpool at Anfield as humiliating, as very many other Man U people are still trying to nurse all these wounds. Clearly, they haven't yet gotten over it, but all is well, and we are with you in spirit. And also still in the Daily Monitor Sports this morning, Van P returns fuels the CAC charge, and Crane's second favorites, where we also have about Chitenda people showing a lot of respect. Now, this is what their dynamic SS coach was saying in their matches that they were having in the last couple of days. All that, make sure you grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor to get that and many more stories.
Well, and in the New Vision Sports for this morning, we're talking about the 12th edition of the East Africa University Games. Now, right there, they also give you a picture of the first Deputy Prime Minister Rebecca Kadaga touring Victoria Mwaka Hall, which will accommodate some of the competitors for the Games. Now, they also show you the engineer right there from Ndeje University, also handing over a pledge for the first Deputy Prime Minister Rebecca Kadaga. That was at Ndeje University yesterday. But also in the New Vision Sport for this morning, they are showing you Coach Mollen, and who is known as Mitchell, who is also talking about the 2023 AFCON qualifiers, where Uganda is, the table, and the draws that have been put across. You have to get yourself a copy of the New Vision today and look into the sports that is being talked about even today. Now, the gold search, as Chemkwemoy leads the gold search. They're also giving you a picture of Lois Chemkwemoy, who is right there as a promising long-distance runner, as we look at the International School Sports Association as well.
Well, that's it for the new vision, but also taking a look at what is happening in the Daily Nation. Cancer-causing toxins found in peanut butter and fruit juices again. And Decision 2022 storm over Igathe. And well, that's a little bit crazy over there, because we know that Kenya is now really running it so hard when it comes to the elections. And still in the Daily Nation, we look at the new prisons plan spent about 257 million windfall after supplying air. Well, grab yourself the Daily Nation to make sure that you get all these details. At the big picture over there, showing you the chosen one, Polycarp, who quit as Nairobi Deputy Governor after just 4 months. He was in office back in 2018 and retreated to the swanky corner offices of the corporate world. Well, he has bounced back into the political theatre, and we are yet to see how it's going to be laid out for him. Is he going to actually run through it smoothly, or it's going to be a hard road for him? Make sure you grab yourself the Daily Nation this morning to catch up. Well, getting to the poll question on our Twitter, which was, how best can government handle the issue of street kids in Kampala? How best can the government handle the issue of street kids in Kampala? Well, the feedback has to be coming in definitely as we go on. We'll be sharing it with you, what you think would be the ideal ways to make sure we get rid of this problem once and for all, to, you know, stop it from recurring every single time. But also in the traffic updates this morning, it's a Thursday morning, and yes, it's quite a cold one. The rains came in a bit heavy, and we know the combination of that and the traffic updates. This morning I want to draw my focus on Makindia division, so I'm going to be looking at areas of Chirudu, areas of Bukasa, Gaba, Muyenga, you know, as if you stay in these places and you're trying to, you know, get to Kampala city center to go up and about your businesses, well, this morning I want to say that these areas actually look pretty good, and actually you could be able to navigate through them. Of course, there are a few spots here and there where you will be able to meet a few hiccups, traffic hiccups and traffic buildups, but that shouldn't really be a big worry for you. For example, if you're coming in from Gaba, Gaba Road is actually a very free road this morning. There is no traffic, just a few traffic hiccups over here. There is a build-up over here and there. But as you can see, the green stretches are really quite evident, and there is nothing for you really to worry about. So I don't think it's ideal for you to use a shortcut even after seeing that the roads right now could be the main roads could be a good choice for you. But also, if you're coming in from Kampala, if you're coming into Kampala City and you're planning to use Lukuli Road, it's quite a green stretch over here, very free, so you could navigate here very freely without having anything to come your way. No traffic build-ups, no crazy traffic as opposed to other days. So that right there is also a good option for you to use. But also, if you're going to come in from Bukasa Road, or if you stay in areas of Bukasa Road is actually a very free road this morning. It really looks all rosy and nice and very free. So yes, it's also quite a good option for you to use the main road without having to get to other shorter cuts or shortcuts that will lead you to Kampala. So Tanki Road is not any different. The green stretch over here, it's also very evident, so you could actually use this road and find your way into the city center. Namwongo Road over here, it's also very okay, of course, apart from a few traffic build-ups here and there as you're getting deeper into the city or closer to the city. Well, you need to expect it, as shown over here by these orange stretches. But again, I always say this every single morning, the orange stretches clearly show that the traffic is starting to build up, but it's not as intense as you would imagine. It's only when you see red spots like this over here, which clearly says there's quite a lot of traffic here. And this is, by the way, on the 5th Street, and as you're also trying to access the industrial area. So you need to put that into consideration if you're going to be using this road to get to the city center. 6th Street is very free, apart from a few hiccups here and there, so you could also use this as an option. And if you're also going to use Old Port Bay Road, it's a very free road for you. It's a long green stretch. However, you should also take into note that as you're accessing the main road, the Ginger Road, the traffic is really crazy, because it is filled up with all all these red lines over here and there, and even some of them are maroon over here to show you that the traffic is quite intense. So make sure that you are ready for this kind of traffic, or you could just decide to use another route, and this as you get closer and closer to the city center, because if you're already here at the roundabout at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, you're more or less into Kampala city. So yes, the traffic over there is a little bit crazy, and of course as you go on, as you also try to find your way to Kampala Road, you need to be very careful and also be just plan ahead and plan accordingly, because that road is all filled up with the traffic. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I will now officially hand you over to Mollen to give you more on this weather and climate news, but also to give you the weather forecast this morning. Good morning, I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. Now, this morning, we know that most areas around the capitals, the Uganda's capital, Kampala, and also for areas within the Lake Victoria Basin have been experiencing rains. It looks like that system is still there, and a lot of more areas within the country are also expected to be picking up with wet weather activities this morning, but we will be looking into that in our forecast. Now, first, let's take a look at what is making headlines in terms of weather conditions across the world, and of course in climate variations. Now, we've been having mostly wildfires across the USA, but now we are looking at extreme events in terms of the coverage of these wildfires, and most of those are also getting to record numbers, at least in the past 1 decade. Now, one that did come out through for this week is also posing a high fire danger across the southeast and southwest part of the USA. Now, what we do know, and at least what is happening right now, is that there is critically dry weather conditions continuing to fuel risks of fires, and this is going to pose yet another week of strong fire danger. It has been extraordinarily busy, with more than 19,000 acres of land being covered by the wildfires. Now, according to what CNN was also reporting this morning, the highest number of fires at this time of the year in any year in the past decade have been burning to a total of 827,000 acres, which is more than 30% above average now over that area. Now, you look at these numbers climbing and climbing each and every day that passes by, and what is out of the ordinary for this time of the year is that now these fires are coming in also in a time when we're talking about drought within the area. And one of the areas that have been actually worst hit, you look at New Mexico and also Arizona, where even up to now we do have reports that people have been evacuated from the area. That is the southeastern part of Arizona, looking into more dangers ahead, expected ahead. According to the National Center for Disaster and Preparedness over there, they're looking at mostly the areas of Arizona being affected, and so far the town of fire near Flagstaff, which is also on Arizona, was covered by fires on Tuesday, but also there is still more danger that is being looked into for this week as well. Now, what we do know is about 14 miles north of East Flagstaff, where we did have rapidly moving fires. Already people were fleeing for their lives, but also there have been plans of evacuating people as more and more of these fires continue breaking out. Now, what is fueling mostly is the drought over there. There is strong winds in the area, and of course compared to what has been happening over the other years in the past decade, according to the report that is coming through, is that at least these fires would come in at this time of the year. Now, what is different for this year's fires is that it came at a time when they were experiencing a drought. Now, that with rising temperatures, obviously, and the strong winds is what is bringing about these wildfires being on record for over, this time of over a decade now. An estimate of 2,068 people living in the area have been evacuated, and they are still looking at over 766 households also being evacuated from this area. Now, we'll continue to talk about more of these extremes of weather events, and as we talk about climate related issues. But again, we're looking into some of the countries that have at least made decisions to do a little bit of actions, especially when we're talking about meeting a target of clean energy. Now, one of those is Denmark. At least Denmark has made a plea. For the first time after the Glasgow Pact, we're seeing them coming out to propose a corporate carbon tax to meet the climate target that was put across with their commitment in the Glasgow Pact that was after COP26 in Glasgow. Well, what do they have in store for this carbon tax? They are looking at big companies, and a pilot plant for carbon dioxide capture is seen as one of those that will be helping. Now, this is going to be in Copenhagen, where they will be looking at trapping carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. This is a good move, and we know a lot of countries have tried to do this kind of stuff, making sure that even when they are producing or when they are contributing to the emission of these greenhouse gases, they have a way to actually capture them back into some of these facilities. Well, Denmark's government on Wednesday did propose introducing a uniform carbon tax, and this will be for companies as well as most of industries that are working with emission of greenhouse gases. Now, they want to reach the country's ambitious target that was proposed by the Danish government. Now, the proposed carbon tax is going to be 1,100 Danish crowns per tons of carbon dioxide. Now, this means that their target is actually looking at by 2030, they should have at least cut down emissions by 3.7 million tons per year. Now, that means that even with this kind of ambitious target, if they follow through with all the companies across, we could be looking at a huge cut in carbon dioxide across Denmark. Now, we do hope that other countries take on these pledges really seriously, especially within the EU, where we're now seeing most governments resorting back to fossil fuels, as the crisis goes on with the Russia-Ukraine war, instead of making more investments into clean energy and how we can deal with trapping most of these gases back into facilities where we can have them instead of being released into the atmosphere and in turn causing a rise in temperatures. But also talking about rising temperatures globally, it looks like the problem is just affecting everyone and of course everything. We are looking at insects that are on the verge of collapsing due to climate change. Now, the report that was published just recently is showing some of the insects that have really been posed to danger, especially when it comes to climate change. Now, one of those that have been highlighted is the butterfly. And this is on a global scale. They're looking at mostly because of extreme land use combined with the warming temperatures that have pushed most of these ecosystems towards collapsing in some parts of the world, as scientists did report yesterday. Now, if you have noticed, even here in Uganda, there have been fewer and fewer butterflies seen over the area, and it looks like it's not just Uganda. Everyone else is noticing that butterflies are starting to actually, disappear, because even what has been reported according to the research that was done, nearly 50% of those have been dropped off. And that means that the coverage of these insects compared to the last decade has really reduced. And the study also published in journal Nature this morning has identified that for the first time we have a clear and alarming link between climate change and the high intensity agriculture, which showed that in some places insects could be collapsing, especially due to the variations in climate change. And I can tell you one thing, it's just that growing up, you used to see those insects, especially the butterflies, but if you don't see them, there is a problem. And what is pushing them towards that is, of course, the increasing temperatures that we have been talking about due to climate change and also the land use. Because when we are having issues with our agriculture or whatever is going on with the environment, then we're resorting to cutting trees, we're resorting to, getting all the land to use in terms of agriculture. And most of these insects now lose their homes. They can't be anywhere, which is what is pushing them to extinction or collapsing of the entire ecosystem. But we do hope that most of these are reversed, because as more and more reports come through, also scientists are devising means of making sure they are alarming people on what to do to make sure we preserve this. So, we love butterflies at least, so we should be looking into how can those stay. But we'll also go ahead and take a look at the weather, how it is looking like in the country today, and tapping from our satellites. For this morning, we did start off with those rains across Kampala, Wakiso, parts of Entebbe as well. It looks like that system is still there, and most of the areas might be continuing with those rains for the entire morning. Now, interesting enough, also for areas that have been quite dry within the year, we're looking at mostly northern Uganda. Those areas have started picking up in terms of wet weather conditions. We've had mostly drier conditions across the northern half of the country. But taking a look into this morning, you can see Gulu right there with those colors headed your way. You could be looking at rains also for this morning. Padel already having those cloudy conditions over there, but also look at areas of Moria within those deep red, orange, yellow colors. That means that we do have rains over there heading for a pack as well. So you can look out for those rains which will be coming your way in just a few minutes away. That system is headed there, but we do have one in Buyende already bringing rains over that area. Mbale as well, it looks like the system is trying to clear up, heading mostly for Buyende as well. So that area is really going to be quite rainy for the rest of this morning. Now, the one across the Lake Victoria area seems to be clearing up in terms of intensity, but we do still have those rains lingering around for areas, especially within the central part of Lake Victoria. That is headed westwards, so we could be looking at more rains for Masaka for this morning. Mubende as well starting to develop a little bit of cloudy conditions, and that might also be developing into rainy conditions for this morning. But we'll go ahead and take a look into our forecast for this morning, and that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and also take a look into the numbers, how we're going to be faring in terms of temperatures for this morning. We start off with the western part of Lake Victoria, where we do have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe. We are forecasting those isolated showers, starting off with cool 25. We could be looking at more rains even in the afternoon for that area. Now, southwestern Uganda, we do have Mara, Iban, Dabushenyi, and Rubirizi. We're forecasting sunny intervals. Now, that will be starting with a cool 24 degrees centigrade, and rains are expected later on as the day progresses. Now, across Mount Elgon Highlands, we do have Mbale, Bududa, Buko, and Sironko. We're forecasting sunny intervals, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade, and also that might continue into the afternoon, mostly with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Look at the eastern side of Lake Victoria. We do have Tororo, Busia, Jinja, Iganga. We're forecasting those rains. We already have cloudy conditions over there, and more rains will be coming through, starting off with a chilly 25, and looks like that system might also be clearing later as we head into the afternoon. Across eastern Uganda, Soroti, Katakwi, and Muria already receiving those rains as we speak. We do have Kumi as well. We're forecasting more of those rains to come through as the morning progresses, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, and also looks like that system might clear later as we head into the afternoon. The eastern side of Central, we do have Ruwero, Wobbly, Zibururi, Nakaseke. We have Nakasongola in that category as well. We're forecasting light showers, starting off with a warm 27, and we could be looking at more of those rains continuing into the afternoon. That is across the central part of that area. Now, looking at also northern Uganda, we have Gulu, Kitugu, Padel, and Germany. We're forecasting those rains. We already have some of those rains coming through for different areas, but we do expect that to start off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade, and also later in the afternoon we could be dealing with most of those rains sticking around, especially for the central part of northern Uganda. Now, back here in the central part of Lake Victoria, we do have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, Mukono, where we're still dealing with most of those rains for different areas. We do expect those to continue into the morning, starting off with quite a cold 24 degrees centigrade, and we could be looking at much more of those rains even later in the afternoon, especially for those areas that are close to Lake Victoria. Now, it seems like it's going to be another day where you really do have to stick with that sweater with you and also an umbrella. But otherwise, Karamoja remains dry. We're looking at West Nile as well, remaining dry. Kabale Highlands still dry, but we could be looking at much more of those rains developing in the afternoon. And there has been quite a pickup in wet weather activities when you look into, especially the central part of Uganda across Lake Victoria Basin. So, Thursday for me appears like as if it's weekend eve, though there is Friday as well, but
I do take it that way, and of course the wares matter for me. But guess what? I do have a stylist in town who makes sure I look good every morning, and I'm talking about Alvin Clever. This guy is on my wares for it today, and I'm telling you, I'm looking smart. I don't know about you, but I'm looking smart. That is Alvin Clever. You can reach him on all his social media platforms. That is Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. That is Alvin Clever. But also his shop is at Arua Park Plaza Level 2, and that is shop F2637. You can be getting in touch with him and of course get yourself the same pieces. Well, my name is Mollen Kenyena. I want to wish you a very good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Have you run out of fuel but you don't have enough money? Do you want to pay for yaka or water but have insufficient funds? Or do you want to shop but you don't have enough money? Don't worry, get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The second reason as to why we fast. We fast because we need Allah to elevate our levels of Iman. We all know we go through a lot, different tests here and there. As we go on, our levels of Iman keep on getting down. But as we do fast, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us that through fasting, our levels of Iman and Taqwa are going to be high. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Perhaps as we fast, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be in position to bless us with taqwa within our hearts and souls. So if you ask today, why do you observe fasting? Why do you leave out drinks, eats during daytime in Ramadan? Tell them that you really need to elevate your levels of taqwa, your levels of iman. And this is one of the reasons as to why we Muslims, we do consider fasting, specifically the holy month of Ramadan. I request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with taqwa amidst our fasting of this noble month of Ramadan. Barakallahu fikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brought to you by UBC TV and Star TV in partnership with Umka Foundation, Ummah Muslim Convertibility.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, and thank you so much for keeping it on UBC TV, the big network where we inspire Uganda. And every morning, every weekday, we are here to ensure that you start your day a very informed person of what is happening both locally and internationally. But above all, we also ensure you're part of this show. So you can always give us a feedback on our various social media platforms regarding the topics. It is exactly 9 minutes past the top of the hour, which is 8 a.m. I hope you're at your workstation or you're heading to your workplace. But wherever you are, you can carry you with us because we are on YouTube and other social media platforms. Even if you miss a certain segment, you can just rewind and get that. Once again, I'm Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now today we are handling a very interesting topic. We are looking at prisons as a correction center or rehabilitation center or institution. Many times police has made a number of arrests, more so when you look at criminal gangs. But one thing that is very clear that comes out, police will tell you this person was arrested and was in prisons and they returned. Now to a layman, they ask themselves, are prisons rehabilitating these people? Others will tell you, let him not even go to prisons, because if he left when he was a chicken thief, he'll come back when he's breaking doors. And that is also a statement that we want to understand with the person I'm having in the studio today, who happens to be my guest. That is Frank Baine, the prison's spokesperson. Frank, you look very smart, I must say.
Thank you. Good morning, Kirabo and dear viewers.
Now, today, we know that our prisons have a number of challenges, but there's so much we expect from them. Our viewer, we must know that in Uganda, I have 259 prisons countrywide. Now, we have 68,452 prisoners in these prisons. But these prisons were meant to have a capacity of 20,000 inmates. 20,000 inmates, they are now having 68,000 452. Now the number has doubled times 3 of what they should be holding. And now making matters worse, in these inmates we have 33,525. These are convicts. Baine will later give you the difference between convicts and remandees. Now we have 34,584. These are remandees. Baine usually says they're not his property yet, but they're within prisons. These are remandees for custody. And of course the debtors being 329. Now Frank, with these statistics shaping our discussion, let's first understand, what is the role of prisons?
Basically, prisons is an institution of government under Ministry of Internal Affairs, and it is mandated by our Constitution of 1995, to be specific, Articles 215 to 217. Its function is clearly elaborated in the Prisons Act of 2006, Chapter 5. I have not come with the paperwork because I want to do summary for the people. But among the functions, one is to make sure that we have safe, secure, humane custody of all those persons that have been legally handed over to us by court, and ensure that these people go to court until they are duly discharged. But at the same time, we are supposed to ensure that all those convicted prisoners are put through rehabilitation programs or correctional programs to make sure they get transformed, such that at the time they leave prison, they are responsible citizens, which we call after reintegration. And of course, we are also supposed to allocate work to inmates while they are with us, reasonably necessary for the well-being of the running of the institution. And we, of course, we are supposed to take on directives, official directives, either from the minister or from the Fountain of Honor. Now, it's from there, like, for example, we have a directive to grow cotton. We have a directive to provide furniture to the government institutions under Bubu. We have a directive to grow maize seeds to make sure the farmers get quality seeds. Those are some of what we call, we have two, the legal mandate and the assigned mandate. The legal mandate is what is enshrined in the Constitution, and the assigned mandate are these upcoming directives. Our main subject is rehabilitation. When a person is brought from court and is remand is that person who has not completed the process of the trial. The police call them suspects. For us, we call them remands because they are at our place majorly for custodial reasons. They think this person will interfere with his investigation. They think this person may run away and have what we call abortion of justice. So court decides that this person is kept in the prison while investigations are continuing. Now, when the investigations are done, trial is conducted and a decision is made, then this person either is acquitted or he's sentenced and he shifts from being a remand to being a convict. A convict is that person sent from court to the prison to serve a sentence as a punishment of the wrongdoing or of the offense committed according to the Penal Code Act. And this person has to go to what we call a sentence regime, because he has to be admitted, looking at his background, and then looking at his areas of interest. Then he's assigned a program that takes him through the prison system until he goes back through what we call reintegration. These programs include formal education. These programs include functional adult literacy, There are those who come, they don't know how to read and write. Actually, the illiteracy rate in the prison is at 70%. 70 out of 100 prisoners can't read or write when they come in. But by the time they get out, the illiteracy rate has dropped to below 20. So at least somebody can read the signpost, can read the Bible, and the like. Now, then, one of course, the first program they go through is the sense of strict discipline, rigorous discipline. At this time you do this, at this time you do this, at this time you sleep, at this time. So that there is that functional system to know what to do, where to do it, when to do it, and it becomes routine. As it becomes routine, it makes this person get into the system of now being a streamlined person from a zigzag character. Then from there, of course, we have vocational training, or what we call vocational education. Now, the most important thing, we realize that most people who come to prison actually want a good life, but they don't want to work for it.
For the good life, yes.
So, one of the things that happen in a prison, work is a principle that cannot be avoided by anybody who goes to the prison. Because one of the challenges, actually I keep telling this one, that our education system, unless it goes back to focusing on attitude as a principle of adult life, we cannot reduce the criminality in society. Because now, everybody is focusing on knowledge. My child must get a distinction, a first class, but nobody cares to know whether this child can wash a cup, whether this child can mop a floor, whether this child can carry a jerrycan of water.
Or dig around.
Or dig around. Or look after animals. Let it be a dog, let it be a cow, let it be a rabbit. No, everybody is looking for first class. So when they reach in the middle, they hit a dead end. They are used to having these good things and they must have them. That's what leads them into criminality. So the function of the prison is to put back the traditional system of knowing that there are three things which coordinate. The head for knowledge, the heart for attitude, and the hands for the skill. What you acquire, you feel will work, you experiment and you see how it works. Then, of course, we have programs like religious empowerment. Because we know that when you don't have morals, most of these crimes border on moral decay. If Kirabo has a coat and I don't have one, if I don't have the cat set, say, but since you have two coats, give me the old one and you remain with the new one. It means that every time when Kirabo is walking home, I hit him, and I remove the coat and I go away. Now, that is where the situation lies. And of course, the only challenge that we have, you have seen that we have more people who are not for rehabilitation. Because you can't rehabilitate them since they are undergoing trial.
Anytime they are leaving.
The law says
they could leave
everybody is innocent in Uganda until proven guilty
by a competent
So you
court.
cannot rehabilitate a person who has not been proved to be guilty.
So
now, but because of the spacing, like you have said, the capacity, you have 68,000 on a capacity of 20, it means it is sometimes very difficult to separate the remands from the convicts. Now, if you are going to get a small section of these convicts to put them under rehabilitation, while the other ones are seated doing nothing, the bad seed affects the good seed very fast. And also, the dynamics in this sentencing, it also depends on what are the terms of the sentence. We have experimented, because about 15 years back, our reoffending rate was at 55%. Now it has dropped to 15-17%.
And in Africa, I was looking at the rankings, Uganda reoffending rate, we are doing very, very well.
Meaning that out of 100 prisoners who come, convicted prisoners, not remand prisoners, when they come 100, actually less than 17 return. And those are other, when you go into research, you'll find that some people are criminals genetically.
Before we go to criminals who are, for people who are criminals genetically, that is also an interesting thing. Frank, help us understand.
Yeah.
Because today, there is this feeling that you see, if a person was a chicken thief, you've been caning, letting him go, police, getting police bond, then they're out. Once they're sent to prison, that they become better thieves, they improve on skills.
You know,
this goes on. Recently, we saw insecurities in Chengera, and these residents were telling you, these boys you see were arrested, were taken to prisons. And now we fear that when they go to prison, they lose this fear that you'll be imprisoned. Now they're used to the life there. Yes, we know in some countries they no longer use the word prisons. They use the word correction centers. They correct people. Are our prisons now off track? What happens to the correction element?
If I begin from where you have ended, I don't know any country which is crime-free in the world, irrespective of the best practices. Whether let it be Canada, let it be USA, let it be Switzerland, criminality is part of humanity.
True.
Now, the challenge we have in Uganda, not every person who has gone to prison has been rehabilitated. I want you from here, go back to the records. If police arrests 1,000 people, how many go to prison? If of those 1,000 people, let's assume 500 have reached court and they have gone to prison, how many are convicted out of those 500? There is this man here, I remember some time back, the former Inspector General of Police was like, this Sobi was in prison. Every time he comes to prison, he starts from where he started. Now, but yes, Sobi was in prison.
Even sometimes have crimes where maybe iron hitmen, they are rounded up, arrested. You have 6 months, 7 months,
you see the problem
then
with
after
our
2
justice
years,
system. It's a justice
they're back
system.
and
because like Sobi was in prison 3 times, but he was never convicted by anybody. And if you don't convict somebody, it means he knows he was not discovered. The game must continue. So that's why we have to look at the bit of, yes, this person has been in prison, but has he been convicted? Has he been subjected to the rehabilitation program? But can you rehabilitate a person who has not been convicted? Now, unfortunately, our justice system being slow, you find somebody, yes, has committed murder, stays 7 years in prison. By the time the trial comes, the witnesses died, the officers who worked on the files were transferred, the man walks to court, then they say, case withdrawn, case dismissed. Now, what message are you giving him? Yes, he knows he killed, but since you didn't find him guilty, it means he's free to continue with his what? With his game. That is one. 2, our society is also responsible. Kirabo, when you go to prison now, I can assure you, if you had come after 1 year, your brothers will have sold your property, they will have already married off your wife, your children will have run away. Now, when you come, they will stay. Now, if you are being stigmatized at home, that means you have to look for a safe haven. And the safe haven are these people who trained you to become a criminal. So that's why we find that we have to work on 2 things. Work on these people who are in prison, which we're doing, but also work on the societies to know that a person does not go to prison to die. A person goes to prison like a patient goes to hospital. If you take your patient to hospital, very sick with malaria, the doctors give the medicine. And this person has reached a stage where he just needs recovery, feeding, and care. Then when you reach home, you say, don't enter that room. That man there has just come from hospital. You don't feed him. What happens? He will still fall sick again and die. So rehabilitation of a prisoner does not stop at the prison. It is part of what the community must participate in. But our people, like I said, the moment a person who has been in prison comes back, whether he went for defilement, whether he went for murder, whether he went for robbery, he is a thief. And then that is where we have to.
So society rejects this person.
Now, at the moment the person feels rejected, then he also has to use a principle of survival. But like I told you, yes, some of them have been convicts. That's why I tell you that out of 100 people fully rehabilitated, less than 17 come back. If you are in a class and you got 80%, you cannot say that you are a dull student. But of course, one criminal in a village is more dangerous. Creates more confusion than 100 ex-prisoners who have come knowing how to do sewing, knowing to do how these crafts. Those ones who are doing well, nobody looks at them. I always remember one time we were in a philosophy class, and our lecturer brought a plain piece of paper and had put a very dark spot in the middle. And he went through the class and said, what do you see? 99% of the class saw the black spot. Only 1% of us saw a big white flat a sheet of paper with a black dot in the middle. But the rest of us saw the black spot. So normally the bad news spreads like fire. That's why one thief is enough to terrorize the whole village. Yet even if these villagers made a good teamwork, even if he has a gun, even if he has an iron bar, they would round him and finish him. But this small dot makes a very big, significant remark. And that's why I'm saying that, you see, yes, we need to improve the justice system. Is it fair that a person who committed murder spends 10 years undergoing trial? Where will you get that evidence?
At the end of the day,
a person who'd fired a 14-year-old girl is being tried when the girl is 22. When she's already shy, she doesn't want to ruin her chances of getting over. This is that would you call that one a trial?
So you have this person for all that period not undergoing rehabilitation.
You can't rehabilitate a person not convicted. These days they have brought a scheme called pre-bargaining. Those who are willing to say that I did, you do. But unfortunately, within them, there are those who say, I have been here for 5 years. People who have been coming and saying we did, they have been convicted. Me who has said I am innocent, nobody's looking at me. Let me do it. Now, when you're rehabilitating a person who knows he didn't do it, but he's doing what he's doing because he wants to finish the sentence and go, sometimes removing that anger to revenge is very difficult.
Yes.
So it is the frustrations of the justice system, not the police, not the DPP, not the court, not the prisons, that is grooming what we call criminality in our country.
Frank Baine, still looking at rehabilitation in prisons, where I expect people to enter and come out better people. Now, there is also, I spend a lot of time in issues of criminology. I love reading about various things, but also speaking to some of these former convicts. One thing I've observed is many of them come out when, in terms of spirituality, they have greatly improved. If you went in a Muslim, a staunch Muslim. A number of them return when they're born again. Don't know what happens in prison. And they have really changed their livelihood. But also I've been able to observe that about 3 decades, when I listened to stories of people, prisons were a place people feared. Someone feared to commit a crime and go to prisons. Today there is this saying, once you're there, for us we've been there. Is it because of human rights? Is it modernity? Is it that the prisons, there's somehow you've changed, that a place that used to be a place people fear, today is a place, we have many come out and they'll tell you, One time I had an issue with one of my young boys' workers at home. Today he's arrested, after 90 days I see him back. Told him, Discuss with me. I hear this beating. You know, that the prison, people would imagine, just don't take that neighbor's goat, because when you go to Kasangati, it is hell, you come a reformed person. What is happening?
Of course, like you have said, the global change, the prisons, the inception of a prison was for punitive purposes. I did my master's in reoffending. When I was tracing the origin of the prison, I realized that in Genesis chapter 3 is actually where the prison started. Because man sinned, God judged, then at the end of the day, there was that toiling and the like, then there was a fence. So when you look at that, then you come to the times of the Nebuchadnezzars, the Hammurabis, you realize that the prisons were dungeons, prisons were places where infliction of pain, physical pain, was a must as a deterrent, as an element of retribution. But through philanthropism of the 19th and 20th century, the trend has changed. That's why everybody is running away from penalism to correctional systems.
People return better,
looking even better. When you inflict pain, because like in courts in Uganda here, me when I joined the prisons, one of the things they teach us is how to administer corporal punishment. A magistrate will say, Kirabo, you are hereby sentenced to 2 months and 100 strokes of cane. We have an approved triangle. We put you there, we strip you naked, put you there, tie up, tie down. There was a cane. Those canes were imported from Nigeria. A person to administer a stroke or a cane had to be of a height not less than 6 feet. And he had to stretch the angle, the cane. You are not simply doing this, no. And then the doctor would be standing, and the caning was supposed to be measured and on one place. And the person would be tied on the face, and the other people would remain in the background talking while the whipping is going on. But all those things are gone. And the problem, by the way, don't look at the prison, look at the home. For me and you, maybe you not yet, but for us when we are growing up, caning was the order of the day. You were caned by your father, you were caned by your mother, your aunties, your siblings, even the neighbor. If the neighbor found you doing mischief, you were beaten. At school, learning was enforced with canes. In every class, the corner, you would see heaps and heaps of canes. Can you do that today? So that is the modernity we are looking for, and that's what we are subjected to. Yes, very many things have changed in prison. That is why when the exams come, you will see the prisoners beating children who are on sausages, who are on brew band. Prisoners are passing better. You have seen prisoners got caught and challenge a death penalty, and the judges sit and preside over the case and make a ruling that favors. You remember the 400, 416. That was a female prisoner engaging the law. And the law comes out and favors her. Those are things that would never happen. How would a prisoner challenge a judge? That he challenge judgment. A prisoner, if you is a culprit, it wouldn't happen. So those are the transformations we talk about. And by and large, by the way, when you use persuasive methods, because now we employ what we call dynamic security, we operate an open door policy. That's why people come to the prison, they see the wrongs in the prison, they come out and talk about what they have seen in the prison. It was reasonable for somebody to come and go on TV and say what is happening inside the prison. They will ask you, how did you reach there? What were you going to do there? Then, if you are not careful, you would go there immediately. But now, those have all gone. Even the media which you are in, there used to be state media only. You either state what the state wants. But now, when you look around, 99% of the media is actually not concerned and not connected to the government. And that is what the society is all about. Because we have gone corporate world, but unfortunately, sophistication also of crime keeps on coming. Moral decay takes us back to these people who are using iron bars. I keep telling people, we are losing our families. Why? These children who have been grown by housemaids cannot have the respect for all elders. When you are not there, the maid is subjecting them to torture. When you come, the maid sees you torturing the maid. Everything is about force. When you don't give pocket money to your child, the child will even refuse to go to school. Yet Kirabo went to school without pocket money. The syndrome that I don't want my children to suffer the way I suffered has caused them to think everything is an entitlement.
Now, Frank, this brings me to wonder, what are we going to do? Because when you look at statistics, you have convicts 33,500.
That's about 49%.
49%. So convicts are much more.
I
mean, convicts are much less than those on remand.
Yes.
And you can only rehabilitate those that are convicts. That have not been convicted, they're not your property. You're just because they can be acquitted or anything can happen.
Yes.
So what needs to be done? Because we must accept that currently many people are going to prisons, coming out, the remand is coming out, and it's setting a wrong precedent. Most like the issue of just talked, where prisons are no longer those places where we see punitive measures being used, you know.
But you see, it's a negation of our responsibility. I want to tell you that we have about we have about 14,000 minor offenders. Why should minor offenders be in prison? It's because our social fabric has broken down. These are cases which were managed by the family, the clan, or the local community.
But also by then, crimes by minors were simple, stealing sugar.
I mean...
Today these are people who are working with knives, they tear people's stomachs.
But you see, if you as parents cannot contain this child who has stolen a bunch of matoke, if you are not containing this child from taking drugs, and you expect that when this person goes to the prison, he will quickly become an angel from a monster, sometimes it's too much. Because, unfortunately, people who are sentenced to these small sentences don't even complete the rehabilitation program. Because for you to be programmed, you need about maybe 3, 4, 5 years. I am not advocating that people should be sentenced to long sentences. But if you have sentenced somebody to 6 months, in 6 months, how much will this person have internalized from, even if you give express package? Yes, you will go through your routine, but it's very easy. Actually, that's why we have another thing that most people, like this religious empowerment, one of the things I found out when I was doing research, about 90% of the prisoners embrace religious empowerment. But as soon as they get released, 95% of the 90 actually lapse back into their way of doing things. While 99% of the people who get education, Senior 1, Senior 4, Senior 4, Senior 6, Senior 6, a diploma, a certificate, 99 totally change and never go back to what? To crime. So it tells you that people who stay longer on the rehabilitation program, people who do programs that have a long-term effect, actually less reoffend than these ones because of the sentence. Because for us, we do things according to the fixed program of a sentence. The one of 6 months, you know when you remove 1 month, plus the other, the five, then that will be 2.5. Then you find that this person is literally going to spend 3.5 months. Sentence 6 months, he's spending 3.5 months. When he comes out, they say, he has come, but he has not learned anything. How much can you learn in 3.5 months? So those are some of the things we need to look at. What happens? Other countries, including Kenya, they have what they call halfway homes. When a person is coming from prison, there is a place prepared for you. And they normally keep people between 6 months and 1 year. There you come, you are a bit free, you are paid for what you do, but they are trying to observe you are doing of things, whether you actually benefited from what was in the what?
In the prisons.
Then eventually you go. But if it is not in our constitution, you cannot do it. And even if it is done by the private NGOs and individuals. If our Ugandans have not picked interest, Baine and Uganda Prison Service have had their hands tied. They cannot force people to start halfway homes.
Well, viewer, we're looking at prisons as a rehabilitation institution, knowing that of late we've had a number of reports of people who were once in prisons in our country returning to communities, and instead of being transformed people, unfortunately, many of them now become better criminals. And Frank, I want us to look at this. How do you best explain that? That a person who came as a chicken thief, now next is an iron bar hitman. Yes, this person could not have been undergoing the rehabilitation process, fine, because they are remandees. But then, why do we see them advance in terms of crime?
You know, sometimes what happens like that, like I told you, somebody was a chicken thief. When he reached Ruzira, he found a hitman, this Muteimbwa. They became friends, and unfortunately the Muteimbwa man was not convicted. So he left this man in prison. When this man leaves prison, he tries to go to his home. His home people think the criminal has come. They must kill him or chase him. Then he knows he got a friend while in what? In prison. Then he joins the friend who was never convicted, but whose job is to hit people with iron bars. And this one is now coming as a refuge because his people are not accommodative of him. So, what will this one teach him? He said, when you are in Rome, you behave like the what? The Romans. When you get them, you will not know the chronology of events that have made this man come here. You only think this man never got anything from prisons. One of the lacking component in our imprisonment system is empowerment of persons on release. Of course, African economies don't do those things, but that's where we should go. In Europe, having a certificate that you have got from prison is an automatic ticket for you to get employed in government factories, in government enterprises. In our constitution, a person with any criminal record is not supposed to be employed. Now, if the government, which is rehabilitating these people, does not want to employ them, how will individuals employ them?
And on many forms you asked, have you ever been an offense? I went for an interview and I looked at them like, what? I would no, you know, and they want the details of the case. If you are convicted, you put details.
In one of, I think I visited Canada, one of the officers told me he picked interest in prisons after he had been imprisoned for 4 years. He ran, he did the correctional studies. Eventually, when he came out, he applied for a job. Now he's a very good prisons or corrections officer. Because their constitution thinks that actually the corrections should be the best place to employ these people because they are the ones who have rehabilitated them. They know the security component of managing them. By the way, when these people are in prison, they are angels. Did you know that? They put on uniform. When you enter, you come to them while they are seated down. When you say sleep, everybody sleeps. They are angels. But when they step out, then that's when they go back. Because the society that is in, one is not strict like the prison, but at the same time, it is discriminative. And as a natural instinct for them, there must be a survival.
Very interesting. Where I come from, there is a funny saying this, that if someone is imprisoned, he who takes over the wife has no panic.
Because you are sure he's there.
You are sure he's there. But still, Frank, you've talked about life after prison, that maybe our society doesn't look at this. This brings me to some critical issue. I've interacted with a number of people that have been convicted and served. And this issue of money made in prisons. One was telling me every day, I think he's supposed to get about the labor that they do. So he said...
It is called prisoners' earning scheme.
Earning scheme. So he was telling me, Robert, I was cheated. When for him he calculates, and the guy had records, they know how they count.
You see the
so
problem?
I'm supposed to get this amount of money, prison has given me less.
Sometimes, of course, according to the law, a prisoner earns for the work, the day he works.
Yes.
But sometimes when they have their, they are also very clever. When he's telling, he said, I have spent for 3 years. Those are how many days? No.
Each time supposed to earn, how much is it?
Of course, now it has gone. It used to be skilled labor 500, same skilled 250, and skilled 100. But now skilled is 1,300, same skilled 700, and 500 for unskilled.
Because this one was getting 250.
Now,
so we start and made our calculation.
Now you see the problem that actually I saw somewhere on TV. But one thing is that with him, when he was being trained, he wanted to be paid. You are training somebody to become a tailor for about a year. Now he computes and says, I am entitled to this money. No. It's like when you are in school studying journalism, nobody paid you.
But it's only medical interns that are paid.
But when you are doing your work as a journalist, you are being what? Paid. That's one. Two, in prisons, a day you don't work. That is, maybe you are sick. It is a weekend. Those days are not counted. But with them, they know. They know, but they make noise so that somebody quickly listens to their plight. Then they say, I have served 10 years, multiply by the days, multiply by this money. I have been cheated by this. No. Every day you work. It's supposed to be registered, and then you give them that money. The day you don't work, you can't earn any money. When it is a training, every training you undergo, you cannot be paid for being trained. You can only, like now we make chairs. The prisoners who are paid in the earning scheme are not those who are trained to make chairs, but the experts who are producing chairs for sale. But with him, we will tell you, I was in carpentry section for 2 years. They have only paid me money for 1 year. So they have cheated me 1 year. So it's not cheating. It's only that their computation is not ours. It's like you people say, when you go to prison, they count the day and what? And night, which is not true. Remission says a person sentenced more than 1 month, he serves the entire month, the first month. Then the remaining of the sentence, he gets a third, but subject to hard work and discipline. Meaning, when you are disciplined and hard working, you get a third of the remaining sentence given to you. But when you become indisciplined, they keep on reducing that awarded period. Now somebody will say, you know, I was supposed to have come out of the prison at this time, but you see, my sentence was extended by 4 months. He doesn't tell you that because of my indiscipline. So it is a one-sided story.
Now, finally, Frank, when someone is leaving prison, what package do you give this person? Because also we feel that if someone has been in the carpentry section, they are good to go. There is one in welding. I know because of ministry, I'm a born-again Christian, so I interact with them. I do so much of prison ministry, and sometimes I disturb you on that. But it seems these skills acquired, even government today, when you look at the presidential skilling the girl child, a person leaves this program, there's a sewing machine, there's some bit of money, there's something to kickstart them. As prisons, what do you offer?
You see, unfortunately, the budget for every prisoner every day, until he goes out, is 22,000.
Daily?
Per day.
22,000?
Yes.
Okay.
If you compute, it is medical, it's accommodation, uniform, transport, food. Now, if you go to compute that, overall, we are operating at 45% of the budget that we need. We proposed to institute what they call the discharge kit. Discharge kit is that if a person has been in a farm, he gets a hoe, he gets seeds, he gets some maybe pesticides and goes home. Yes, it is on paper, but it is one of the unfunded priorities. So that almost now, prisoners depend on the earning scheme, and there are those who do outstanding performance. And those who do outstanding performance, it comes through what they call the Commissioner General's Award. Those ones are given a special kit by the Commissioner General, but that is subject to his discretion, and that is subject to the individual performance. It's not a blanket situation. And this strictly applies to the convicted prisoners. But as you have said, the majority of the people are remands. So those won't benefit even if they have stayed. Somebody committed defilement, he has spent 9 years in prison, and in the long run, the case is dismissed. So he walks home.
Just like that.
And he reaches home, the house was collapsed, the wife was married off, the land was sold off, claiming they were walking around to help him come out of prison. So the man becomes a destitute. He is desperate. He has no fallback position. So that's why actually we need to start a campaign and put a torch. When a person has gone to prison, what happens to the families? 98% of the people in prisons are men. 78% of breadwinners in Uganda are men. What happens when the breadwinner goes to prison? I have seen tear-raising experiences where a woman has come to visit a husband in the prison and is asking for any money, if this man has earned any money, to go and buy books so that children can go to school. How many children become delinquents simply because their fathers have gone to prison and there is nobody to fend for them? There are situations where, like, a mother is, let's say a body is thrown in a compound of somebody. They arrest the father, they arrest the mother, they leave the children. For 7 years, they are going to cry of innocence. Not they wake up in the morning, also found the body. In 7 years, what will have happened to the girl child? Yes. What will have happened to the boys? These are some of the things we are generating that are increasing criminality, while thinking we are serving justice. I have always asked, defilement, bad as it is, of course now they separated, they abbreviated from the other one. But I am always asking, if a young man who is school going impregnates a young girl who is school going, a young man goes to prison, what happens to the girl? The girl goes to the father. The father is annoyed, the money is wasted. So the father chases the what? The girl. The girl has a baby. The baby
belongs to
the person who is in the prison. The girl is young that she cannot manage to sustain the life of this kid. Now, when this kid is born, what chances are there that this kid won't end up a criminal because the kid is a victim of circumstances? 3 people are wasted in the names of serving justice.
Frank, well, that is a lovely ending, and in the interest of time, I want to thank you so very much for having found time. I know it's a cold weather, and of course it has its own challenges, but thank you for being with us. We've been looking at prisons as a rehabilitation center. So much has to be done. So much has to be done to ensure we expedite justice so that Many of these remandees are convicted, if at all they are found guilty, and begin on the rehabilitation program. Have a lovely day. God bless you.
A World Cup in the